untap upkeep, and welcome back to the channel if you've been here before. And if you haven't, then welcome and sit back, relax, and enjoy the wild show that we have for you today. And before we jump into it, though, I want to say thank you to all those that have liked, shared, subscribed, left me comments. You all are beautiful people, and I love you all so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, we're going to jump into our video today and just kind of see what everybody's going to think about the surprise I have. So, if you're paying attention to the screen, you could tell that I am going to do a budget build video on our dear friend Rith the Awakener. With that said, let's jump in and see what we got. So, Rith the Awakener is a 6-drop, 6/6 legendary dragon from one of the invasion sets. She's probably the second set of elder dragons, if you will, legendary dragons that came out after Nicol Bolas and Victus Asmati and all that. Would you go away? Bad. Bad computer. Bad. So moving forward, let's take a look at Rith. For 6 mana, a red, a green, and a white, and 3 other mana, you're able to play this big, beautiful 6/6 flying dragon. So you're probably sitting there going, okay, we get it. You're the Buddha dragon. Okay, fine. Why this dragon? Well, if you like tokens, this is a fun one to build. So Rith says whenever she deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 and a green. And if you do, you get to choose a color. Then you get a 1/1 green suppelling creature token for each permanent of that color. So it includes ourselves. You're going to hit somebody for 6. They take 6 damage. You pay 2 and a green. And now you're going to look around the board. Looks like red is the most common color out there on the battlefield. So there's 5 red permanents, including Rith. Doesn't matter. I just poop out 5 1/1 green suppelling creature tokens. Yay! That means the next turn, assuming the red player has not gotten any more, and you hit for another 6 on either the same person or somebody else. And you're going to pay 2 and a green. And you're going to look around the board. Let's say the only thing that changed was your tokens. Unlikely to change just that little, but go with me on this journey. So then you're going to call green. So you got 5 suppelling creature tokens plus Rith. And if that's the only green permanents on the battlefield, you're going to make 6 more suppellings, and you can see how this snowballs. And it can get really, really crazy. This is the Dominaria Remastered art, by the way. I like the old border for it. They have a couple of different versions. I was right, she is from Invasion. This is what she originally looked like from the Invasion block. I personally enjoy this one from the Vault of Dragons. But I also don't mind the Dominaria remastered art either. It gives a nice nod to the original, especially with the old school border. I really enjoy it. But just that, I just figured I'd show you that. So let's move on to our creatures sweep and let's see what we got. We've got a whole host of mana dorks, starting Arbor Elf, Avacyn's Pilgrim, Elvish Mystic, Llanowar Elves. Elvish Visionary is not a mana dork, but does come into play and let us draw a card. The Priest of Titania, which is amazing that it got the reprint it did in Modern Horizons 3. Yes, this was like a $5 card for like the past handful of years, and it was really hard to get a hold of one. So it's really nice to be able to get to this at a really good budget. And we also have Stiff for the Sakura Tribe Elder. That is our creature package that helps us ramp a little bit so that we are able to get up off the ground a little bit. One of our other token producers here is Kadira, Caller of the Small. She's a 3 mana 3/3 with trample, and whenever she deals combat damage to a player, for each token you control, you can make a 1/1 white rabbit creature token. Early in the game, she's probably not going to do a whole lot. Maybe swing here and there for some chip damage, maybe block here and there. But if you're trying to just go wide, which this deck is trying to do, and burn the table out, as I will show you in a minute, then she can be of good use later on in the game. Another source of card draw, like the Elvish Visionary, is Cavern Caryatid, and 3 mana, 2/5 with Defender. And it's just a simple, when it comes into play, it's going to draw a card. But it blocks just about everything, so that's not bad. The Champion of Lambalt, if you've seen any of my previous videos, you know this is a really fun creature to have with anything that can do 1/1 counter kind of synergy. I think it looks pretty good in this deck too, because whenever another creature enters the battlefield under our control, we're going to put a 1/1 counter on the champion. That includes each Suprolling that we would make from Rith's ability. And her primary ability is creatures with power less than Champion of Lambalt's power can't be blocking creatures that you control. Excuse me. So I think she's a fun card to have in here. Next up, we have King Darien. King Darien here is 3 mana for a 2/3 legendary human soldier. Gives our army a little bit of a power boost as a +1/+1. He's also a mana sink, so for 3, a white and a green, we could put a 1/1 counter on King Darien, and then we can create a 1/1 soldier creature token. So he can expand our army as well as making himself and our army big, so he has a lot of synergy and good pieces. We can also sacrifice him to give creature tokens we control hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So he's a nice immediate uh-oh button. If he's on the battlefield, people will try to push that button just to make you waste it. But you don't really have to. I mean, you can hold on to that for a minute. I guess it more or less depends on the game and your game state. Kind of determines a lot of that, of course. Futziel Malahamet Exemplar is a wonderful 1 white and green cat legendary warrior with a really good static ability, which is why it's in the deck. So it's a 3/3, and your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. So this gives us a nice safety net. We're not in blue, so being able to worry about counter spells is a problem, especially on a budget. This allows us to bypass that. We also have the other ability, so whenever one or more creatures you control, each with power greater than its base power, deals combat damage to a player, we can draw a card. So, for instance, King Darien over here can make himself a little bit bigger, and our tokens a little bit bigger, so when they swing in, we can hopefully draw a card. Witty Roastmaster allows us to burn the table down. This is the, well, I guess I'll just say, he is the poor man's version of a Perforos God of the Forge. So for 2 and a red, we get a 3/2 devil that says whenever the other creature enters the battlefield under our control, he is going to deal 1 damage to everybody that's an opponent. So each opponent gets hit in the face. And that's kind of what I built this budget build of Rith around, is using abilities like the Witty Roastmaster. So we're just trying to make an army to keep ourselves alive, maybe turn sideways here and there. Ultimately, we're just looking to burn the table down. Welcoming Vampire is a very hot card. Whenever the creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under our control, we get to draw a card. It only triggers once each turn, but that's fine. Let's skip over to the Rumor Gatherer. So it has a very similar effect. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under our control, we are going to scry. And if it's the second time it has happened this turn, we get to draw a card. So for the first 2, we will be able to scry and then draw a card. And then any other creatures that come out into the battlefield after that, we will at least get the scry, we won't get the draw. So that essentially is card selection. It's not great, but it does help us filter like a big land pocket, or maybe we need another land, so we're digging pretty deep to get it. It has options. So it took Rebel Fort. It's in here just because it gives our stuff haste. The fact that it has reach is a nice bonus. It can stop other incoming dragons, drakes, vampires, whatever. It's neat, but it's really just to give everything haste. The other part to our puzzle, other than the Witty Roastmaster, is the Molten Gatekeeper. So whenever another creature enters the battlefield under our control, the Gatekeeper will deal 1 damage to each opponent. It also has Unearth, so um if we were going out for like a really big like uh X mana value token creator and this has died, and maybe this would win the game, we could pay 1 red mana to bring it back for a turn. After that, it will be exiled. Maybe that's all we need is 1 turn. So it's another creature like our Witty Roastmaster. It's a build your own Purpose, if you will. So take it as you would. We're also going to run Mentor the Meats because our tokens are usually pretty small. So whenever another creature power 2 or less enters the battlefield under our control, we can pay a mana, and if we do, we get to draw a card. So if we have some extra free mana, we can draw some cards. Bright Cat Badger is from the Bloom Bro set, and I really like this guy. I think he's pretty neat. So you can play him for the adventure side, and if you do, you're gonna create 2 1/1 green suppling creature tokens, and then you can play him after that, or just straight play him before that. So each Saproling and Fungus you control will tap to add a green mana. That's pretty nice. That means our Saprolings are not. Excuse me. Our Saprolings are not just going to sit there and be bodies. We can actually do something with them. We can make mana and play spells. Granted, it's just green mana, but hey, it's better than nothing. And then at the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 green Saproling creature token. So we're able to keep the token train going with this guy. I wish he was kind of like Verdant Force and a couple of the others that are more expensive, where he could do it on everybody's turn, not just ours. That would make this card, well, honestly, out of the budget restriction, but it would be pretty nice. Our next card that we have up is Aurelia, the Wall Above. I'm really surprised at the budget capability for this card. I think people are sleeping on it, honestly. I really, really, really like this card. So for 3, a red and a white, we get a 4/4 legendary angel with flying, vigilance, and haste. So as soon as she comes on the battlefield, we are turning her sideways at somebody, hopefully. And then she has whenever a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, you get to draw a card. Doesn't matter if it's me, you, Billy Bob, or Joe. Anybody attacks with 3 or more creatures, we're gonna draw a card. And then her other ability is interesting. It says whenever another player attacks with 5 or more creatures, she deals 3 damage to each of your opponents and you gain 3 life. A little bit of life gain's not that great, but hey, we'll take it. The fact that she pretty much can board wipe somebody is pretty brutal when you think about it. At least I think it is. Finally, our budget cheapy version of a Moonshaker Cavalry or a more popular Craterhoof Behemoth. And raise 4 runners. Excuse me. It is a 8 mana 7/7 with Vigilance, Trample, Haste, and whenever it enters, other creatures we control will get a +2/+2 Vigilance and Trample until end of turn. The Vigilance part probably not going to be relevant because our stuff. Well, Vigilance is going to be relevant. I meant to say Trample. Trample's not going to be relevant because our stuff is pretty small. But you might be able to gang up on like a Goblin player or something. You're not probably going to take on a Merfolk player. They usually get a pretty good battlefield. But with enough of them, you could just bypass it anyway and just turn them sideways. So that's kind of our creature package. We are on a budget where everything is going to be in the time of build for this deck and recording. Everything was $1 or less. There are a couple of exceptions, so we'll get to that when we get to that. We are running Rampant Growth and Cultivate for a couple of ramp pieces. We have Harmonize, Shamanic Revelation, Camaraderie, Collective Unconscience, and that's going to be it for our sorcery speed card draw. They all draw as cards at some point. If we have a whole bunch of things with power 4 or bigger, we gain a whole bunch of life with the Shamanic Revelation. And we can gain some more life with Camaraderie. So we gain X life, draw X cards, where X is the number of creatures we control, and creatures we control get 1/1 until end of turn. Pretty nice setup if you ask me. The Bond of Discipline will say the following and make us some very, very happy people. So tap all creatures your opponents control. Creatures you control gain lifelink at the end of turn. So it's a nice way to shut down like a goblin player, for instance, from being able to block everything and turn our stuff sideways and gain some life. So I thought it'd be a fun thing to do in here. We also run Overrun to help give everything a +3/+3 in trample. Just kind of a classic green card, really. We have the Cleansing Nova, Hour of Reckoning, and Austere Command. We have 3 sources of board wipes, so that hopefully we can just kind of keep the board under control. We also run Collective Unconscience, as I stated earlier, and we get to draw a card for each creature we control. This could get really dumb really fast. Pay attention when you play this spell to your deck size, because you very well could deck out if it's too late in the game and nobody has done anything. Moving on to our instances, we're only running a handful of them. A lot of them are pretty common and typical you would see in EDH now. With Path to Exile, Sword Splashers, Chaos Warp, Generous Gift, even Artifact Mutation, and Beast Within. They all kind of tie in as some pretty common staples that you see in EDH decks that don't run black. So I think they're pretty okay here. We're kind of limited as what we can and can't do, being on a budget, but that's okay. The fact that Beast Within and Grasp of Fate, Generous Gift, not Grasp of Fate, allow us to deal with a couple of different permanents. I think that's pretty doable and pretty understandable. Next, we're going to run Gruul Charm to have a couple of different modes. Creatures with outflying can't block this turn, so if we have a big enough army, we can turn them sideways, play this before blocks are declared, and stop somebody from blocking if they don't have a lot of flyers. We can also gain control of target permanent, gain control of all permanents we own. So if somebody was able to jack some of our stuff, we could get it back, or it can deal 3 damage to each creature with flying, so we can knock some stuff with flying down in their defense. Naiad Charm also has a couple of different modes, so we can have the charm deal 3 damage to target creature, turn target creature card from our graveyard to our hand, and then we can just tap all creatures target player controls. So we have 2 ways to literally just tap down your board and hopefully swing in for some damage. Harrow allows us to sack a land and get 2 more. They come into play untapped. Rootborn Defense is just one of our ways to protect our battlefield because we do run a lot of tokens. And finally, our big score is just a nice icing on the cake to make sure that we're good as far as card draw is concerned. And it does make a couple of treasures, so there's that. It's a pretty nice card, I think. So moving on down to our artifact section, which is pretty dense. We're going to run Brainstone, which is kind of like having Brain Freeze. We have the Gruul Signet, the Arcane Signet, the Wayfarer's Bubble, Boros and Silencious Signet, a Thought Vessel, a Felwar Stone, a Prismatic Lens, a Mind Stone, a Commander Sphere, and that's going to be it. That's everything we have for our mana rocks. Yeah, I could add Soul Ring because I could bend that rule a little bit, but right now we're going to just stick with it. We also run the Carnage Altar to be able to sack a creature and draw a card, which is pretty nice. Oh no, you're going to remove something that we really need. Let's eat it instead. The Arcane Encyclopedia is a very fun go-to card for me for anything that has a budget restriction or an issue drawing cards. This card does a really great job. So for 3 mana, we can tap it to draw a card. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy. The Idol Oblivion is next up on our card draw selection, so anytime we make a token, if this is untapped, we can tap it to draw a card, and we can make a 10/10 Eldrazi if we sacrifice it, which we're probably never going to do. At least I don't think so. Finally, we're going to run this, the Book of Ramas. The Book of Ras. I found this actually just kind of surfing the internet looking for some other ways to draw some cards on a budget, and I found this and I thought it would be pretty neat to throw into the deck. So for 6 mana, we get an artifact that says pay 2 mana, pay 2 life to draw a card. And then it says effects that would prevent or redirect this damage cannot be used to stop this. Pardon me. So that just means for 2 life and 2 mana, here we go. We're able to draw some cards and keep our hands full, which is not bad. Our enchantment package, as we get close to the wrap up here, we have Glorious Sunrise, the Colossal Might, Intangible Virtue, and of course Fungal Plots. Fungal Plots not only can allow us to make more Support Creature tokens, but we can also sack those tokens to gain 2 life and draw some cards. So there's a lot of potential here to draw some cards and just do some really dumb things. If it's light enough the game, and we've got enough of an army. We also have Intangible Virtue to give our tokens Vigilance and a +1/+1. Colossal Majesty is just another way to draw cards. Glorious Sunrise, we could choose one of the following modes to help us out on the beginning of our combat main phase. So, creatures we control will get a +1/+1 and trample until end of turn. Then we can have target land, add 4 green to our mana pool until end of turn. We are able to draw a card, and if you control a creature with power 3 or greater, which we can with our commander, and then finally, you can just simply gain 1 life. So, it has a couple of options, it has a couple of ways to make it good, make it fun, make it powerful. On a budget, we just need some other sources of card draw, so we're willing to take that card draw and just go with it. It just kind of varies on what we're trying to do. Card draw is probably the best option that we're going to do for it, but maybe we need that little bit of a nudge to make our stuff a little bit bigger and go for the trample damage and get the win. Who knows? Our mana base is a little bit light on first 35 lands on just being on a budget, and all of it is the typical thing you would see from like Field of Ruin that I keep preaching until I'm in the ground to blow up certain lands that become a problem. The Evolving Wilds, Terraforming Expanse, we are running the Rith Grove as well as the Jungle Shine. The only problem with doing budget is you get a lot of tap lands that like to come and play tapped. That is a problem, but what are we gonna do? Biscuits. Okay, so we also run the Arch of Rascata, which can at a rate of 5 mana be able to do draw bad. At the rate of 5 mana, we're going to be able to draw a card only if we have the City's Blessing, which we're running a token deck. It shouldn't be that hard to get it, because once you get it, you don't ever lose it. Wanderer's Enclave, I want to see more of this card. I love this card. So for 3 mana, you can tap it to draw a card, and only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. So as long as our commander's out, we can use this to draw a card. Then you have the typical sweep from basics to scry lands, check lands, all that good stuff. We're running a Rose Passage because Rith doesn't just have to attack, she has to connect. So there is an importance there to be able to make her unblockable. It's just a one of. You might see it in a handful of games. You might never see it in 1,000 games. But it's a pretty nice option to have there. But ladies and gentlemen, that has been it for Rith on a budget though. And I actually have a Rith deck that I enjoy playing. Mine is definitely not budget. Mine is very ramped up, very ready to go. Let's bare our teeth and just destroy the whole battlefield. That's the way my Rith is built. But it's not an adult budget either. So a quick look through of some of the things that you could put into this deck if you were to upgrade it beyond just $1 a card. and what could make things really nice. There's the Impact Tremors, a Skull Clamp, a Land Base, of course, Jet Mirror, Balin, which I love running Balin in my Rith deck. It is so powerful. A Heroic Intervention. My Mycolith, I've seen him do some things. My Mycolith is really, really nice. The Second Harvest, it's the old border one, not the new border one. But it allows you to make an extra token copy of tokens that you have on the battlefield. Bird's Paradise, pretty self-explanatory. It's birds. War Leader's Call would be another effect similar to Perforos, in my opinion. So, but you get a little bit more extra out of it by saying creatures you control get +1/+1. And it's not until the end of turn. It's a permanent boost. And then whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, War Leader's Call will deal 1 damage to that player. So maybe your other 2 options are not there. Maybe they were deeper in the deck. Maybe they got removed. Whatever you want to say. Excuse me. Then we are going to run the War Leader's Call to hopefully get by and do some more damage. Jaheira is another option to make our stuff be able to tap for mana. Mary's Wake, if you want to be able to go that route, make your stuff bigger and tap for more mana. Perforos is what I've been alluding to and talking about. So for every creature that enters the battlefield under our control, Perforos here would do 2 damage. So if you have Perforos, Impact Tremors, and the other 2, I mean, you could do like, was it like 5 or 6 points of damage for every 1 creature that enters the battlefield? My god, that would hurt. Goblin Bombardment would be another option to be able to discard, well, not discard, but eat creatures to be able to deal damage. It's pretty nice. We can use the Utopia Mycon, since we do make quite a bit of Surprolings, to use them for actual colored mana. Tantashoot Dryad, yeah, just a nice card, and it allows us to make an army in a can. You have doublers like the Parallel Lives and Mondrak Glory Dominus, as well as Anointed Procession, being able to double all the tokens that we make. So those are pretty nice options. You can also run Doubling Season. The only reason I don't run Doubling Season in a lot of decks is because it seems like I never get a chance to use it. Because, like, it almost always eats a kill spell ASAP, as it probably rightfully should, being that, you know, it's Doubling Season. So, aside from my personal experiences with it, I don't personally run Doubling Season in any of my decks, unless I was trying to probably go full Super Friends kind of list, and I might run it. Maybe I'll get at least 1 Planeswalker with double counters. Probably not. But you can run things like Mondrak, Parallel Lives, and Anointed Procession. I don't think I would put more than maybe 1 or 2 in the deck, because I don't think you're going to need it. Speaking of Doubling Season, there she is right there. Return of the Wild Speaker can pump our army. It won't give them trample, but it can still pump. And more importantly, we could draw cards equal to the biggest thing on our battlefield, which at the very least could be a big, powerful 6/6 hungry dragon. Ornery Frostfang gives our attacking stuff Death Touch, and we can draw cards for everything that's not blocked. Blast Act is just a nice board wipe that is in red, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, is outside of budget. I mean, I know a lot of decks run this card, but it's been reprinted a lot. How is this thing still that expensive? Why? Ghalta Maverin that allows us to make tokens. Toski will draw some cards. March of the Multitudes will give an army in a can, so to say, so it's not bad. The Verdant Force, if you felt like spending a ridiculous amount of mana on this card, will allow you to make a 1/1 green Surpolling creature token on every single upkeep. And the Growing Rights of Itlamok is just a nice poor man's Gaia Cradle, because when it flips over, you're able to add mana equal to the number of creatures that you control. Rhythm of the Wild, I don't know if it really helps. I mean, it stops our stuff from being canceled if they're a creature, but other than that, it really doesn't see a lot of help here. Zendikar, the Avenger Zendikar, we ramp out hard enough, maybe this could become some kind of issue, but I don't know. Enduring Vitality can make our stuff tap for any mana. Find on else. The Unbreakable Formation allows us to make our stuff indestructible, and it's not going to cost us an arm and a leg money wise. Titanic Ultimatum can make our stuff huge. O'Hare Talk is a token tripler, but only for creature tokens, so it could see some use as well. Mirror Entity can make our army huge in an instant. As I apparently don't know what I'm doing with my computer. Shocker. Sprufus, I like Sprufus, but I think he's better at the helm of his own command deck. Some more Surprolling synergy here with these two creatures, the Tree Folks. They do a lot of synergy. You can run a Chroma's Will as a nice way to just end the game if you have a big enough battlefield. Ginny Faye can make them into either cats or dogs. Any joins up allows us to double the triggers that happen. Halo Fountain would not be another way to have an I win the game button either. This is probably one of the bigger ones. This is the Psychotrope Thallid. So it makes spores. When you have 3 or more spores, you're able to remove those 3 spore counters to make some Surprolling creatures, which is not a big thing to me. The big thing to me is you could pay a mana, sacrifice a Surprolling, and draw a card. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this has been Rith the Awakener as a budget build where everything at the time of build and recording was $1 or less. So let me know what you think about this build. And would you like to see my personal Rith where it's ratcheted up to its full potential power that I can currently bring it in paper? If this is something that intrigues you, let me know in the comments below. Light it up and show me what you think. How would you build a Rift deck on a budget like I did for here? Is there anything you think would be a better option? Would you go more smash face or would you continue the burn route? I'm very curious. For any more information about this particular deck, the link of the deck list will be in the description below the video, as it has been for all of the other deck type videos I have released so far. With that, please remember, like, share, subscribe, ring that bell for any kind of notifications, and tell your friends about me. Give me some ideas for some decks. I've got one that I'm brewing right now, and it's gonna be a whopper. You're gonna want to pay attention for when that one gets released. All that said, I've been the Buddha Dragon. Rub your belly for mana, and may your games be nothing but luck. Until the next time, I'll see you then.